You're not going to believe what's going on with jobs. In this video, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to make it real simple. We'll look at the data. I'm going to show you that information, but I'm also going to give you an insight as to what's happening with corporations and the changes they're making. Does that sound interesting? Let's get into it right away. My name is David Guntiri, and what I do here at this channel is I take the complicated and I make it real simple. I cover news, I cover information, white papers, and data from all over the world, and the point that I try to get to is the truth. Let's go. Here we go with this article is basically talking about what the labor market is doing and how the Federal Reserve is responding to that. You see, at this time, the Federal Reserve and other central banks are reacting to inflation. Inflation is too hot. But at the same time, we've seen these companies say that, hey, we got to pay our people more than ever before. Wage inflation is putting pressure on a lot of these companies. So we have inflation of all kinds riding too high. This is experienced by people going to the store, people buying services, real information that won't show up in the data. And why is that the case? It's because I have heard from you, no matter where you are in the world, 1,000 times before. Oh, I'm buying that, let's just say, can of beans. However, even though the price has gone up, let's say a small amount, but that can is now half the size. The same with the bag of this and the same with the jar of that. It's always the same. They get you one way, shape, or form, just like your services. Oh, it used to include 10 different things. Now it's only 2 things. All of the bonuses I used to get, oh, that's all gone. When you go to tip, look at that screen they give you. I go to buy an espresso and immediately I'm getting choices of tip for 4 different things. It doesn't make any sense what's happening here. This is all different forms of inflation. Call it shrinkflation, call it tipflation, call it whatever you want, but ultimately you as the consumer are paying more than you did before. That's where we have it right now with inflation this high. Well, of course, interest rates are also high, at least compared to where we have seen before, and factoring in the current inflation rate. What's happening with jobs though? Okay, now the next part of it is this. French anger over pension law tops worldwide protests in 2023. 3,800 French demonstrations. There have been reports of pension protests in 78 countries. Don't think that this is one country. So yes, pension protests as part of it. I'm going to lump that into the jobs scenario as we look at this. Union action shuts some key West Coast ports. So this is another one here. You look at this, Hollywood directors reach their labor pact, but writers remain on strike. All different industries, all different places around the world. This is talking about Disney, they're getting rid of thousands of jobs, as well as Pixar, which is owned by Disney. Do you see this one by one by one by one? And that brings me to the next aspect. You see, what happens here throughout any cycle, and I have studied countless cycles, definitely not all of them, but certainly I've looked through all these different countries, through all of history, all the way back to the great inflation of Athens, and watched as that devaluation occurred. And what did the government do? And then the same thing with Rome, and the same thing with all of these different empires, as well as just different countries. Any data that I can pull, I brought it up in here. Now, with that, what occurs usually is either the empire falls and collapses and never really returns to where it was, or it takes 1,000 years to do so, or you come through that cycle and it's just a temporary thing of, let's say, a few years, 10 years, whatever the case is, and then eventually people get hired back and then it grows beyond. The economy is going through a period of, stagnation, maybe it's deflation, whatever, and then it eventually, it goes back to where it was. Understand, I'm not talking about the stock market, I'm talking about the economy. Jobs, exploration, expanding, all these different things, okay? So during this time, you would see, some problems, maybe inflation's too hot, maybe whatever the case is, but it gets back to where it was and then it goes beyond it. What I see now today is the advancement of artificial intelligence, that's a big one, as well as robotics, being implemented at a fast rate. In fact, so fast that companies, number one, are doing it. They're actually saying right now, we don't want to hire anybody else. We want to implement artificial intelligence at this time. It's the same thing with robots. All of the money is going into figuring out that issue, increasing productivity. That's what they call it. Now, they're doing this with Chippy the robot who makes the chips at Chipotle. This is a real thing. I've covered it before. You've got Flippy the robot who's doing the fries at the White Castle and some other places, and so on and so on and so on. They are all implementing this either in test phases or they're actually going ahead with it's already done. You've seen those examples. The McDonald's that has no human interaction. They're all doing this. Why? Because they don't want to pay their employees $15 an hour to go dump fries from this thing into people's cups. I mean, it's just, they don't want to do it, and they're going to go away from that. And a lot of people are going to actually want this, especially the younger crowd. The older crowd, they might say, no, I want that human interaction and so on. But hey, if this looks like a TikTok video, the younger generation is going to be more accepting towards that. And they say, oh, all my favorite influencers went to that place. It's all robots. It's so fantastic. I want to go there. Then you can have the luxury market, which is totally different. It will rely on the old school ways, just like with clothing and high-end luxury manufacturers. They can do things in their own way. But for the general masses, they have to apply different things. Now, that was not a rant. That was literally leading me up into this, okay? The AI job culling has already begun. 4,000 people have lost work last month to this technology. Now, 4,000 in the grand scheme of things is not a big deal, but that was just last month. And that's just because of artificial intelligence. Big tech is now developing powerful AI brains for real world robots. Do you understand here? AI together with robots. Building on recent AI advancements to allow robots to complete tasks autonomously in the real world is a major step forward. They still got a lot of work. This is going to happen over time, but understand what's happening here. They are trying to do the tasks of you and I, and they are going to constantly do this until they get to where they want to be, and it will excel far greater than any human can do. The intelligence for white collars work, the fact that they can work 24/7, the fact that they don't need healthcare, the fact that they don't need to get paid, the fact that they can adapt in an instant, the fact that they don't go and do one thing, or they don't want to unionize, they don't, all these different things. Of course, the corporations are going to do that, and then the shareholders are going to reward them with more money. So the CEOs and directors who own a large percentage of these companies are going to be able to see the benefit of that more than anybody. The ones that make the decisions, the board of the directors, and the CEOs, C-class people, they're the ones that, if the stock is to a certain point, they are able to reap the benefits of that. And so what do you think they're going to do? I think it's pretty obvious. They're going to go this route of increasing productivity. Do you see where I'm going here with this? One after the other after the other. All of these points are connected. UBS CEO warns of painful jobs decisions after Credit Suisse takeover whenever there's mergers and acquisitions, which typically happen during times of crisis. This was one very good example of that. Then you're going to see jobs go away. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that they do not come back if you don't need them anymore. Do you see what I'm saying here? You make it through a cycle. Usually the companies would hire back again. But in this case here, if they can replace you with a robot or AI, they're going to do that. That's what I'm trying to say. And now, for the last point I want to make here, your money, your taxpayer dollars, you're doing everything. You're working hard. You're working 2 jobs. You're working 3 jobs. You're walking on your hands. You're, going all through all the things you need to do just to make ends meet. And your tax dollars are being squandered. No. Stay here. I'm going to show you something that's about cats. I'm serious. The kitten GPS we need to talk about this because this is really about the kitten GPS, okay? Secretly, that's what this all is, okay? I'm not kidding about this when I say this. This is official information from Senate.gov website, okay? How about that? $4.2 million from Health and Human Services, including $770,000 to a state-run lab in Russia to put cats on treadmills. Yes, you did hear me correctly. Your taxpayer dollars went to a state-run lab in Russia to do what? Put cats on treadmills. Yes, you heard me right. Cats on treadmills. This is the Kitten GPS, and I want to thank you for being here today. This is what you got to know. You've got to have a side hustle. You've got to have income. You've got to bring that in even when you have your primary, because you never know when that's going to fail or be reduced or have an issue. Always have a business on the side, tax advantages and so many other things, but this is what you got to do. Click on this link right now and I'll see you over there.